think about, and I know I'm going a little bit over here, but think about this too. When you talk to your clients about neuroaesthetics and you're using these different words, all of a sudden you've elevated the conversation and you've put yourself up above your competition that's not doing that. And, you know, and I think many of us, at least in North America, and I often hear the imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, I feel like an imposter in this. And you know what? When you've got science has your back, science has your back. Science for over 30 years has been telling you that you improve health. When you start to unpack this and realize it, that whole confidence builds up, that whole imposter syndrome diminishes, that vocabulary changes, and all of a sudden you're really in a powerful, you can empower the whole, the whole project and the clients and really make them feel that they have chosen the right designer or the right architect or the right products.
Okay, we do have the most amazing profession in the world, right? Agree? Yes, of course. So for the people who just see me or hear me for the first time, I'm Mark Muskens. Nice to meet you. And together with Sven van Buren and the rest of our team, we're running our own interior design studio, Masters of Interior Design, and even the more satisfying company, Institute of Interior Impact, where we train and mentor interior designers to take their business to the next level too. Therefore, I'm so grateful we're not only helping our clients by designing and creating meaningful environments, but also to empower our global community beyond interior design to do the same, to create the impact they really want to make. You could say by designing a healthy business and a healthy life. So seriously, this today is not something you want to miss, because it is proven that IKEA, actually Apple, and so many other companies in the furniture, but also cosmetics and food industry, use neuroscience to change your behavior. But the overall perception of our industry is that we exist to help people create pretty rooms. Our view is different. You know that by now. We believe in this magical part beyond interior design, and there's the real value of our industry. And now there is proof measured by science that's game-changing and cutting edge, and we can even provide better health for our clients. Or with the exact word of my podcast guests of today, because there are two, the problem is that most of us who work in interior design and home furnishings don't see ourselves that way. And I'm talking about the finest of science in design. Science in design is dedicated to educating the interior design industry on the physical and emotional health benefits of beauty, nature, and fine design. Their mission is to help the design industry incorporate the healing power of beauty, the power documented by the study of medicine and neuroaesthetics. Therefore, I'm proud to have them in our live video podcast today, because this is definitely beyond interior design. Please give them a warm welcome, live from Canada, Linda Kafka and Mike Peterson.
Look at that.
Look at that. You get an applause. Yes.
But you're not standing. They should have been standing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, everybody should be standing. Maybe at the end, Mike, you need to deserve the standing ovation. Okay, let's start with you, Linda. Great to have you. Tell us more about your background, your connection with interior design before we dive into the science.
Thank you. My background originally started in marketing back in the 80s, when marketing was, not really thought of or respected as a profession. It was 2009, fast forward to 2009. I was hired to repurpose a building in Toronto and create a design center. And it was really Canada's first design center. So not only was I the marketing director, but I was a general manager of about 250,000 square feet of permanent showroom spaces. And we had a furniture show attached to that. And as a result of my role there, I was responsible for driving traffic in and always looking at education, building community. I didn't want to just come in and talk about what the newest trends were, because that wasn't really helping the interior design industry. And so through my job, I had the opportunity to travel, and I would often attend the High Point Furniture Market, which if you do ever attend that, it's been around for over 100 years. It is the furniture show in North America. I've had the opportunity to go to Maison and Objet and Salone, and it was in 2019 when I discovered the place for being at Salone and learned about neuroaesthetics for the first time, not realizing that there was somebody else also on this parallel path. And that was April. And in October, I ended up as I often go to the High Point Furniture Market, at one of the showrooms. The car was packed. I was ready to go home. It was towards the end of my stay there. And I came across Mike Peterson, and I was just blown away with his design harmony presentation, because it was exactly validated what I was already learning in neuroaesthetics. So Mike based in the United States, and I'm based in Canada, and we're a dynamic duo in the North American, actually global, as we bring more and more information about this.
Yeah.
That's my little snippet, but I've got much more, but we don't have enough time for that.
No, but good to know your background. Do you, Mike? After that, we want to know how the beauty improves our health, but tell me more. What's your connection?
Well, my background is mostly in marketing, and I've been involved in the publishing business for most of my career. I was publisher of magazines like House Beautiful, Country Living, and I was inside the furniture industry for a while. And and my connection to all of this is really an interesting story. I was actually having lunch with an architect in Denver, Colorado. And his name is Don Ruggles. Don is also the author of Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture. And so in the course of this lunch, I just wanted to sell him a page of advertising, but he wasn't having anything of it. All he wanted to do was talk about beauty and how beauty improves health. And honestly, I was an advertising guy, and the first 15 minutes, it was just going right over my head. But after he said something, and a small light went on. And the more he talked, the brighter the light got for me. And so this whole passion and love of what we're doing right now, trying to share this information that interior design and beauty improve health, that's where it was born. It was rather serendipitous. I mean, if I hadn't had lunch with Don Ruggles, I'd still be selling advertising.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, I saw your quote there. Like, if designers create beauty and beauty improves health, then designers can improve health. I was like, hey, that's yeah. I really do like that. Like we are kind of design doctors, right?
Well,
Yes.
it's interesting you say that way. It's the classic axiom: if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. And the bottom line is that because of what neuroscience has been doing over the last 35 years or so, studying us, studying our industry, studying beauty. And they can now, because of scanning and biomapping, they can now determine just what part of the brain lights up when we see something of beauty. And so the opportunity for our industry is to take advantage of the fact that we create, as an industry, we create beauty.
Yeah.
And when we do, we improve health. We now know it. The heart rate goes down, the blood pressure goes down. Beauty is calming. It creates a GSR, a galvanic skin response, all of which is now measurable. And it's terribly exciting for our industry, because, as you said in your beginning, most of us think that most of the world thinks that interior design creates pretty rooms. And that's just, as an industry, we do so much more than that. We've always kind of felt that we make people feel better intuitively, but honestly, it's now documented. It is now measured and documented. And I mean, everybody's buttons should be popping right now. And just because of what science knows that we all have to learn.
Yeah, great. Yeah, there is the proof. So that's why I was so curious about it, because we can tell it as designers. Hey, I want to make you feel good. I want to create an environment where you can grow, where you can live on your own terms, that you feel happy, that you can do more about the things you love and less of the things you hate to do. But all these phrases are kind of gut feeling, intuition, or positivity, you could call it that way. Clients can be like, okay, yeah, sounds good. But it is proven, and they know it afterwards. If they have an environment like that, and you did a design job in a good way, they feel it. It improved their life literally. But up front, it's hard to say it, and it's hard to measure. So I will dive into that deeper with you, because I love to do that later on. But first of all, neuroaesthetics. This term, you are observing it for 30 years, Mike? More than 30 years?
I've been learning about it for the last 7 or 8 years, but the world of neuroscience has been studying the concept of beauty, and it's led to a little bit of a splinter, a new portion of neuroscience that is now called neuroaesthetics. It's the convergence of science and design. And so now you have specialists at Johns Hopkins, the Mayo Clinic, Boston Architectural College, and other institutions in the States, and leaders around the world studying how this whole concept of converging beauty, aesthetics. And by the way, it's not just the visual beauty, it's the concepts of pleasure that can be attained through all of the senses. So neuroaesthetics is not just what we see as being beautiful, it's how the built environment immediately impacts us. And as I said earlier, it's now measured and documented, the benefit.
Yeah, wonderful. So you are visiting more often trade shows, Linda, Mike, something together. What is it that you see there? How does it make you feel when you know all this and you're walking around in those halls, and is some with a different vibe or different environment? They try to tease you or to seduce you or whatever. How does it? What kind of feeling you are looking at this kind of trade shows?
You know, with this newfound emerging field of neuroaesthetics and the knowledge that we've acquired, and the work that we're doing with the PhDs and academics and research, when Mike and I walk trade shows now, we really look at it through a different lens. First and foremost, we're both marketing people, and now we've got that layered on top, the neuroscience, the neuroaesthetics, and what we're seeing is lost opportunity. Everywhere we turn, whether it's from the attendees themselves as designers, whether it's the furniture manufacturers, and I'm going to focus a little bit more on furniture manufacturing, because that tends to be, we tend to do a lot more work in the residential sector, although this transcends to all sectors. So if and when I say sectors, it doesn't matter if you're in a healthcare, commercial, hospitality, the residential sector. It doesn't matter if you're in product development and design or manufacturing or distributors. This actually relates to everybody. And Mike and I will walk through it. I will always chuckle when Mike says, there you go again, another person saying we sell solid wood furniture. And it's like, really? Wow. They don't realize the benefits of wood. Just seeing wood grain itself can reduce your blood pressure by 5-6 beats per minute. So, there's so many,
Sorry, say that again. What does wood do?
Just seeing wood grain, the pattern of wood.
Yeah.
It calms you. It has a calming effect. It can reduce your blood pressure by 5-6 beats per minute. So it reduces your, that stress level. And as we, in this world that is so highly stressed and so much pressure put on us, what are we seeking? We're seeking to have a more calmer life and environment. Now, the workplace, those designers that work in the commercial sector or the workplace environments are understanding this. Residential designers haven't grasped onto it. So when Mike and I walk through the trade shows, Mike, remember when we walked through the High Point Furniture Market, when we walked through the kitchen and bath shows, the response that...
Yeah, it's interesting because the furniture manufacturers around the world still think they sell furniture, and they don't. That's what they manufacture. What they sell is the emotional reward, the benefit of what that furniture does for you. So if a piece of furniture is perceived by an individual to be beautiful and have aesthetic qualities and have a tactile sensation when you run your hand over the wood grain or the feeling of the finish, there's something positive happening chemically in your body. It's impacting you in a way that improves your health. And so And we see it all the time. And it's very frustrating for Linda and I, because as we get to know more and more, again, we're not the academics here, we're marketing people, and we're trying to take the message from the world of academia and take it out into the marketplace where it will have an enhanced value. We always talk about how two neuroscientists will call for a symposium. So you have 100 neuroscientists in one room. One of them gets up and lectures to the rest of them, and they all go back to their offices in their institutions. And that knowledge is what has to get out of their offices and their minds and out into the marketplace. And that's what's so frustrating for Linda and I as we walk these trade shows.
It's the same with interior designers. If you can put 300 interior designers in one room, but then what happens? We can complain about things, we can argue about things, we can talk about things has to change and the clients don't understand us and we need more sustainable products and whatever, all our issues. But what happens is nothing. So that's what I really do like about this Beyond Interior Design podcast, to combine all this expertise beyond interior design to get in discussion with each other, to get to know the knowledge. Sustainability the same. We had Paul and Charlene about sustainability, and they have all kinds of chemists and alchemists and biologists and all technicians. They need to make sure that these products are right for us. They do the math, they do the science, and then they come up with a good product. But for a designer, it's hard to know if it's a good or healthy product. And the same says for you. We need those scientific people with their measurements and proof that what's a good product for us, what's a healthy product, and what's not, right?
And, you know, if you watch people, and I love to watch people, especially at trade shows, and it happens time and time again, especially like when you go to the furniture markets or even the kitchen bath, any trade shows, you're seeing people touching. And when they feel, for instance, fabrics or it can apply to the carpets, it can apply to the accessories, to the artwork, you know, you'll watch them and you'll see the awe that they have with certain pieces. Some pieces attract, you know, certain type of personalities and others don't. And, you know, they perceive beauty in different ways. But it's over and over again, the manufacturers and even designers will do it too. Just take a look at designers' websites. They all say the same thing. We design, we plan, they'll explain the process, but they don't explain what their design actually does for you and how it improves your health and your well-being. And that's the message that we really want to get out there. As Mike and I are extremely, as you can tell, passionate about this, but we really see this as changing the face of the industry.
Yeah.
You know, we're not, when you think about you're not feeling well, your stomach's not feeling well, you're thinking, you know what, maybe I'm going to go see a naturopath and try to do some natural remedies. If your sciatica is acting up, your back is sore, you might go see a chiropractor. If you're in your space and you're not feeling excited or calm, or you're not feeling those great emotions, why are we not calling our interior designers to help alleviate those problems and help us create better environments so that we can thrive in them? And that's
let me add to that, Mark, real quick.
Yeah.
Because one of the quotes that we use in all of our sessions and in all of our summits and symposiums that we do, one of the quotes comes from the head of environmental medicine at the University of Texas. Her name is Dr. Claudia Miller. And she says, architects and designers have a greater ability to improve public health than medical professionals.
Wow.
Now, let that resonate for a minute. Let that sink in, because that ought to spin everybody's head that's on this call right now. Because the medical industry, the people, doctors, the people we trust with our health, are saying that we have a greater ability to improve health than they do. And to back that up, the head of the Center for Innovation at the Mayo Clinic, which is a major institution here in North America, he says the future of medicine is in the home. Now, how about that? I mean, you put those two things together, and essentially what the role that Linda and I have are, we're begging the industry to catch up. Again, science has known this now for 30 plus years, and the COVID experience, all it did was put an exclamation point on the fundamental need that we have to enhance the value proposition of our industry. I mean, it's important. There's value there that's not being taken advantage of.
Yeah. So it all has to do what comes back a lot in our podcast, and I'm happy to hear that, because it's not about the next new shiny object putting in your environment, and maybe you get bored after 2 days, some people after 1 year. What's the meaning of it? What's the higher purpose? Why do you have those products or items in your life anyway? Not talking about what's good for the planet or the rest of your environment. So it's all about this experience thing.
Creating meaningful environments. Creating meaningful environments is going to evoke some type of emotion.
Meaningful, yeah.
And the goal is to create a positive emotion, to increase that serotonin and that dopamine, those oxytocin, all those different types of hormones that are going to trigger, that feelings, create that feeling for you, so that you really feel calm and that rest and relaxed in your space, as opposed to the fight, flight, freeze, I'm out of here. Yeah, I can't, and often, and many of us can experience that. I relate to it when I look at real estate. Take something as simple as real estate. You're looking to buy a new home. You walk into a space and you go, oh my God, this is not for me. I'm out of here. I don't want it. I can't put my finger on it. I don't like it. I don't like the space.
It doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel right. And then there are other times when you walk into it. IKEA does such a great job. Restoration Hardware is doing an amazing job with that. You sit on the sofa and you go, oh my God, I could just move in. That's how we making our spaces feel. And, and creating that type of feeling for your clients. You're an alternative health resource, right, Mike?
Yeah, that's a phrase that we're using more and more often, and that science is using. Science looks at our industry and thinks of us as an alternative health resource. And it's a phrase, alternative health resource. It seems to work for a lot of designers. But I also want to tag on to something that Linda just said. Don't think, for anybody listening right now, don't think that the ability to measure emotional reaction is just in the major institutions. We're working right now with 2 different companies that are able to measure and actually predict where the unconscious mind, the subliminal brain, will be attracted. I'll start with a technology called VAS. It's visual attention software from 3M. Essentially, they're able to use their software to predict where we will be, our minds and brains will be attracted in the first 3 or 4 seconds when the unconscious mind is in control. And that in itself is maybe I better back up just a moment.
I was going to say, talk about the unconscious mind first, Mike.
Because our brain is quite complex, right? It's the most complex designed element in the universe, maybe. Whatever. So
it is. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But 95% of our conscious thoughts are unconscious first. And that's essentially the unconscious mind being in control for the first roughly 3 or 4 seconds of experiencing something new. So, I mean, just think, how many times do we look at the front of a car and we see a facial hierarchy? We see the 2 eyes, we see the mouth, and so on. It happens all the time. That's our unconscious mind in control. And this software from 3M, VAS, is able to predict where the unconscious mind will be attracted. So imagine taking a rendering as an interior designer, and they call it, 3M calls it visual spell check. And so think of it that way. You can take a rendering and run it through the software, and you will have your intuition corroborated by running it through the software. The other software, and Linda knows a little bit more about this than I do, but the other software that we're beginning to work with is something called iMotions. iMotions is essentially software that can measure up to 7 different emotional reactions upon walking into a space. So just think, we're thinking about using it at High Point Market in October. And if any of you want to join us, please do so, because we're going to have several different experiential events at High Point Market in October. And so we're hoping to use iMotions, build a couple of pop-ups, and have people, similar to what Linda experienced in Milan, have people walk up into an environment, and iMotion software will be able to read the emotional reaction that person has in that space.
How does it work? With kind of wristbands, or what is it?
Linda,
it's
do you
a
want to pick up?
Yeah, it's a software, and then they're using eye tracking cameras, different devices that now iMotion sells the software, but there are other products that are aligned with that can actually do the monitoring. So the eyeglasses, the camera on your screen, and so on. And this can be done right from the office, right from your office. A designer could work with their clients there. But what I like about it, what's exciting for me is, as Mike said, it can identify different emotions. So for instance, you put your rendering through this and it will automatically detect how many times you smiled, whether you smiled, or if you looked angry or you felt disgusted. And you can have now open up that conversation with your clients and say, when we ran this rendering through, this was the response that you had. You don't even realize that you have them because it happens within a split second.
Yeah.
And so what happens is you can now have that conversation with your client. Like you're looking at, let's say, a living room. Why did you feel, we tracked, or we were able to tell that you felt angry in that space? Is it the design, or is it evoking a memory that you had? Maybe you often hit your leg on the coffee table and just sparked a memory that you had. And so you can have those conversations with your client once you are able to identify, how they felt towards that imagery that they're looking. And this can also be done in person. There's different ways that this can be, the iMotion's tracking can be done. But it is revolutionary to the interior design industry, but not to the big companies out there like advertisers or website designers or package designers.
There's this kind of heat mapping and all this kind of technology already there.
Not just heat mapping, but iMotions can do galvanic skin responses and so on. So it can monitor a lot more than just the where your eye is going to be or predicting where your eye is going to look.
So you're definitely this. Yeah, Mike, please.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. The point of this is that every one of the people on this call right now can access this software. It's not just in a major university or an institution or a medical facility. We can all access this, and I heartily recommend that your viewers consider doing that, because this is the future of design.
We will put a link on our website, Mike and Linda. Okay. All right, then people can look it up. We can and want to know more about it, because they know at the institute we're talking. Form follows meaning is our philosophy. So it's all about those emotions, and sometimes it's hard to deal with the emotions with our clients. They flutter crisscross through a design process. They don't know what they feel. And sometimes even with science, I read about it in an article of yours, that there could be a mismatch about what they are telling you and what they are feeling literally. You know when you get goosebumps or you feel like a breathtaking space, and we all do have those great pronunciations for talking about this emotion. They're physical emotions, actually.
Mark, and if I can add to that, this isn't just about your renderings. You can use this for your marketing. So if you're creating your website, your business cards, your marketing brochures, your marketing material, if you're participating in events, you can use the same software to run it through to get a feeling for what, especially the vast technology, to identify where your clients are going to be looking at that ad, and are they actually getting the messaging? And Mike, you've done that several times with your own clients.
Yeah, I have. And, what's interesting about VAS is that it's already being heavily used by packaged goods manufacturers. Think of the experience that we have as we're walking down a supermarket aisle and we're looking at potato chips, or we're looking at different shapes of bags and colors and fonts. Which one is going to attract the subliminal brain, the unconscious mind?
Yeah.
So all that packaging is being designed, so much of that packaging is being designed using vast technology, so that it helps to attract, again, that unconscious mind.
So you could say, if you talk about the interior design, you are creating a design, and people are talking about those eye catchers they want, those wow factors included in their home, and you tell them how to do it, how to create it, what could be the wow factor. You can literally measure if this wow factor, where to put it, what it actually is, if it is a real wow factor, or they are actually in the split second attracted by with somebody else or something else.
What VAS will explain to us is, and I would recommend you look into it. But what VAS actually what it measures are things like edges, color intensity, color contrast, not the color itself, but the contrast of colors, and also facial hierarchy. So those are the 4 primary elements that it will pick up. So I now have some of my designer clients essentially designing rooms using those 4 elements as a way to design.
Those are we talk about design principles, huh? kind of signature. You could say this is the scientific signature of creating spaces.
It's essentially a tool that they can use that they want to have strong edges. They want to have color contrast in a room and color intensity. And so several of my clients are now designing based on those elements.
What about color? Because we had a podcast about color. Color, we all do experience color in a different way. Is it not one of the most complex things?
Yes, and yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, tell me more about it. Tell me the scientific part, not the.
Okay. And I'm not the academic in here. We do have in our faculty color expert. For my years at the design center and traveling around and working and educating designers, I was very much involved with the color marketing group. We were doing color forecasting. Interesting, depending on where that color forecasting, whether it was North America, South America, Europe, Asia, it was always different. And I think what I've observed is color is it's a very intense subject and very complex to learn. A lot of designers, and I'm not being disrespectful to the design industry, but what I have discovered is many designers don't understand undertones. They don't understand color as much as they should because they probably aren't taught it in their interior design programming. Architects, I think, get even perhaps maybe less training in color. And so, there's so much, color is so complex, but, when I hear designers or people do the color psychology and say, red stands for this and blue stands for this and yellow stands for this, you really have to take it into context of culture, who that individual is, where they come from, their culture, because, an Asian culture is going to have a different approach or feeling to color versus maybe a North American.
Yeah, it's about how we say the association you have.
Yes, yeah, association with color, and it is quite complex. It's so complex that in our certification, which launches in October, our science and design certification, we've dedicated 2 chapters to color, and we haven't even scratched the surface. Now, one of the things we like using, one of the tools we use is a NIX. It's a color sensor management system. And so for designers, if you are looking at colors and you want to make sure you get the exact right match to whatever paint company or palettes you're working with, when you're using a product like NIX, it will identify the elements and then tell you where you can, identify the color and then tell you which palettes, whether it's an NCS, whether it's a Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, Farrow and Ball. I mean, they have hundreds of palettes in their color monitoring system. And I think that's another good tool for designers to work with, because there's always a different conversation or a different understanding of color between your client and you. And it's hard to make a decision. You almost get decision fatigue because there's so many choices of even one particular color. If you look at gray, all the gray, there's so many different, and so getting it right is extremely challenging. And my advice is to really have in your toolbox somebody that is an expert on color that you can rely on.
Yeah, cool. But we do experience that color is a really powerful thing. We talked about it with another podcast with Gabriele Guzman.
Yes.
About that some people don't like green or they don't like blue. What is it? They have to. The thing was they kind of have this wrong associations with it, or they need more rest and comfort. But they are telling them that I don't need that. I want those bright and orange and reds to get more energized. So there was a really mismatch with the science and the inner feeling about that. But it's really, this power, we always love to talk about, we're kind of known by the why guys for a lot of people. We always do ask why when I have a new prospect. I only want to know why. Why do you not want this? Why do you like that? And when you come really to the deepest levels, you have this kind of, well, let's call it primal feeling almost, like, once I experience that color or that object or shape, and it reminds me of, and you see the eyes are twinkling, they get goosebumps, they are like, oh wow, I want this. And then you create this mesmerizing environment for them that they can really thrive in. So it's wonderful that you can tap in those emotions. And even with science, like you said, you can prove it, or you can use science to create the exact color you would like to experience, right?
And I think and for the designers, what's really important, I think, is in order to design for the human, you have to know where we came. And Mike, often it really references that evolutionary inheritance, right, Mike?
Yeah, I actually was just thinking about that. We have to understand, and in this world of neuroaesthetics, one of the things that the academics, the scholars will talk about is where we've come from. We essentially are who we have been. And when you think about that, it's really deep, because all of us we're all in the middle of this incredible R&D experiment. We are the sum of all who have been before us, and we are contributing to who we will be in the millions of years ahead. And to understand who we are today, we need to look back at how our ancestors experienced life. For instance, we sit at a window seat today and we love sipping our coffee and looking out the window at the prospect of what's out there. Well, that's an evolutionary inheritance. We can't remember the days, but in our DNA are the days of living in a cave, very safe, a refuge, and looking out at the prospect of what is out there in the land. And so our brains have evolved to be a perfect example of organized complexity. And so with that as a backdrop, our brains seek out organized complexity. It's why we love fractal beauty. It's why it's boring. It's boring to look at a straight line. But when you add extensions to that straight line, when you give it pattern, when you give it complexity, but organized complexity, and that's the difference between the clutter idea and organized complexity, it feeds us. We need it. It's an urge for. It's not something that it's a passive interest. We seek it out. And there was this, one of our faculty members is Richard Taylor out of the University of Oregon, and he's a specialist in fractal fluency. And he just did a study with Mohawk carpets. I don't know whether you have Mohawk over in Europe or not, but it's a major,
primarily commercial,
it's a major carpeting firm over here. And so they hired Richard to develop the perfect level of fractal intensity.
You're talking about Dr. Richard Taylor, right?
This is Dr. Richard Taylor out of the University of Oregon. And so he worked with them to create a perfect carpet for commercial installations. And they have begun marketing this carpet line as the Relaxing Floor series of carpet, because he was able to tell them just what was the perfect level of fractal intensity, enough patterning to attract and calm the inhabitant.
I can imagine that it is like you are walking on moss in the forest, or what is it? What's attached to this primal feeling?
It really is, and just by mentioning that, we are so connected to nature. I mean, remember a million years ago, there were no shoes. We didn't have shoes, so we were directly connected to the earth. And yes, walking along moss and walking in these patterned floors, seeing the patterns, because we seek it out, we're saying to ourselves subliminally, oh, I feel connected in this room. I feel calm in this room.
I have this guilty pleasure, Michael, and with waving curtains. I don't know where it comes from. I have so many videos on my phone from waving curtains in the sunshine. I'm getting so happy about it always. It's like a medicine for me. I just put the video on and I'm getting healed or something. I don't know where it's come from, but it's definitely from
it's the flow.
The sunshine, the canopies.
Yeah, and you've got a combination of the things that are happening. You've got that flow, that curve feeling, that softness, the light that's coming through that's broken up. You might even have shadows within the space depending on the patterning in your curtain. That all plays into this exciting feel, and that's that kind of gives you that awe feeling, which is the 15th pattern of biophilic design. And we learn a lot from biophilic design through Terrapin Bright Green, which is somebody that we go to. They've been around for a long time, and they are really often consulted on various biophilic projects globally, from commercial to all levels.
But because the aspects of biophilic design are connected to nature, so that could be a great discipline. But it's wonderful that you talk about a carpet, that you don't see the carpet as what's the purpose of a carpet.
Now it's interesting because Dr. Richard Taylor out of the University of Oregon, and if anybody wants to get in touch with him, just reach out to us and we'll help connect you. But he's also an expert at Jackson Pollock painting, so he analyzes fractals. I originally thought fractals were, very mathematical, very structured, but what we've learned through Richard and through Terrapin Bright Green is that fractals can be really organic. So clouds can be are organic. Or think of flames in a fire. Think of your client when they have a fireplace. Why do so many of us want to have, that I prefer a real fireplace to see the flickering flames as opposed to, a an electric fireplace. Still going to stimulate the same feeling, but those are more organic type of fractals, repeating patterns, different shapes, slightly different in pattern versus a fern leaf that's very precise on its fractal patterning. But something that we do talk about, and we actually have Richard Taylor is one of our faculty talking about the importance of fractals and how it affects your clients and why you should be using it and why you should be incorporating. And too much is no good and too little is no good. So you've got to find that perfect balance.
Yeah, is it an individual balance then? If you talk about residential design, for example?
When you're dealing commercial, obviously you're designing for the masses, right?
Yes, that's another thing. But when a lot of designers have to deal with individuals, although it can be a small company or a restaurant or whatever, but they need to deal in some way with their individual emotions or the way of how they see their brand, of the feeling they want to create. Yeah. How does it work for residential? Because you do know those minimalistic design bunkers from concrete, glass, and steel.
And I have to admit that was, the style that I always thought I loved. And I kind of almost convinced my adult children that was the style that they were going to love too, that very minimalistic, and it's a beautiful look. But what we're learning from science, and when we talk to various people that are academia that study this, and there's a lot of research out there on this, so it's not me and Mike saying this, we're going to research, is that, the brain needs detail. It needs a certain amount of detail. We're scanning for detail, we're pulling back. We're scanning and we're pulling back. And when you're in an environment that is devoid completely of detail, you may think you like that, but what actually ends up happening is to some degree, it's going to increase your stress levels, your cortisol. You're not going to feel as relaxed as you think you are, a lot of hard edges. And when we think about nature, there isn't a great amount, like, give me an example of a right angle in nature. I can say maybe crystals or certain stone, but most patterns are very organic in shape. And when you're in a very hard-edged, right-angled environment with virtually, all monochromatic color, or all white on white on white and very little detail, it's going to affect you in a more negative, impact you in a more negative way. But that doesn't mean to say that minimalistic design is bad. It's just going to need elements in there, whether it's fractal patterning through fireplaces and other things, maybe it's color. You have to have the balance, and only you are really going to understand your client. And and we've sought out a really interesting professor she's a doctor, actually, Dr. Rebecca Tapia, and she's going to talk about how to kind of diagnose your clients and the questions you should be asking.
She's a specialist in brain trauma and brain, the impact of the brain, and she's doing a class for us in our certification program that will help designers determine the symptoms that need to be addressed with elements of design. So she's going to, as a doctor, she's going to help our designers not so much play doctor, but extract from the client, what the fundamental needs and emotional needs are. But
Great. Yeah, you have great stuff going on there in science and design, Michael Linda. It's, you are connecting so many experts on all kinds of level together to spread your message. So we'll definitely would like to cooperate on that one to inform people about the possibilities on this these kind of things, because I know there are people who want to dive deeper in this kind of material, although they don't have to be the professor or the doctor at the end, but they do want to use this kind of aspects in their own business, in their interior designs, because it will raise their value at the end, and it will make us feel better.
It will very much I'm sorry, Linda, but real quick, it absolutely will change the value perception of an individual designer, but also of the industry. And we'd love to find a way to work with you, Mark. I mean, I know a lot of our faculty members would love a trip to Europe to put together a day or two. Heck, I'd like a trip to, and so would Linda and I enjoy a trip to Europe to put together a couple of days summit on the science and design. And that's the way we got started a couple of years ago. We just decided to do day-long summits at design centers throughout the United States and Toronto. And the response was so positive from designers. The words we heard back were cutting edge. This is game changing. And the most important word we heard was validating. Yeah. That designers, science is now validating what designers have been doing for years. And that it's so empowering to know that, what you have suspected intuitively is actually documented now, and it's quite revelatory.
Some people are scared. Some people are scared about technology, about AI, about all this stuff. But you see here a very positive use of technology in our field that actually is elevating all those emotions and measuring all these emotions, and actually able to create all the emotions on another level, on the level we are looking for. But because we want to, you started the podcast with creating pleasure or designing pleasure. I really do like that, because that's we all want to be happy at the end. That's all what we are doing, is to make us feel happy. At the end, that's the core. Why you're designing a place? To make you feel happy. Why are you doing anything in your life? You want to feel happy. Yeah.
I just want to add to what Mike just said. One of the, as a marketing person, and running the design center, one of the problems that I heard over and over again from the design industry, especially residential, well, actually every sector, was the client and the budget, slashing the budget, cutting the budget. How do I sell this to my boss? How do I sell this? And this was really profound for me when I heard Don Ruggles' presentation. And at the end of his presentation, and this will stay with me for life, and I really want every one of you to understand how important this is. When you have science backing you up, the next time your client pulls out a red pen and starts slashing your budget, you now can go back to them and say, you're actually impacting your health. You're hurting yourself, you're hurting your family, you're pulling away, you're pulling things out of the design that are actually going to improve your health. Do you really want to do that? And it gives such power back to the designers. We all know, especially in residential, all of a sudden you pick up a client, and that client now wants to, they come up with, I've always wanted to be a designer. They get onto the internet, they start on the Wayfair, they start buying a sofa for $200, and and look at budget, I found it cheaper than you. They think that they can do your job. What this is going to do for all of you on this call, whether you are a designer or a furniture manufacturer or a product manufacturer or sales, it's really going to give you back the power, because your clients are not going to understand science the way you are going to understand it. Your clients are not going to understand the human the way you're going to understand the human. You're going to use evidence-based design to really help them understand that they should be increasing their budget, not decreasing it. And that goes for every aspect of interior design and architecture. So I always, think of Don Ruggles with that one comment, because that is really, at the end of the day, that's one of our biggest struggles is when a client wants to slash the budget or not increase it. So that gives you
And
tools.
we've mentioned Don a couple times now, and
Poor Don, he probably feels
think-
like we're putting him up on a pedestal.
Where is he? Where is he? Why is he not here?
He belongs on
Yeah.
that. Well,
Actually,
let
no,
me
he
say
is
this.
here. Look, he is on the call, but I'm not.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
I'm
see.
not gonna call out.
No, we don't, no.
That'll be
Yeah,
another
let me-
call.
This is too live for him, maybe, yes.
Yeah, let me just say this though, because we've mentioned him, and because he's been so supportive of what Linda and I are trying to do, I do want to mention that his book is called Beauty, Neuroscience, and Architecture, and if you haven't read it yet, get it. You have to. It's a great primer for what we're talking about, and the book was also turned into a film documentary called Built Beautiful, and that you can find on your major streaming
Apple
services.
Play.
We
like all
will-
the-
You mentioned so many names and books and links and professors, so we will try to make a list of that. And if so, we do prefer your help on that one. We will create a landing page for
Glad
your
to.
podcast. We always do, and we put all the information out there for the people who would like to know more. And
You had some
that's
comments.
including me. I want to know more about this. So, well, Mike and Linda, we can talk a lot about it, and you gave already so much good advice about how we need to act as interior designers, because that's the way how I see it. Yeah, we need to.
You need to own it.
Yeah, you need to own it, and that's what we teach our community, our interior designers, in our memberships and trainings to take the authority, be a guide them because we do know more about aesthetics and beauty and feeling, and sometimes clients are just looking at the way because of television shows or whatever that is this pretty room problem, like you call it. That needs to change, and that's the whole idea of why we've built this institute. To take action on that.
We don't need to, live for the trends. This is
No.
not trend.
No,
This is not
no,
trend.
no,
This is
not
a
at all.
philosophy. This is a way of, a way of life. This is really designing for the human. And, and so don't get caught up. Like, remember, Mike and I are marketing people, and we know we've been trained to figure out those buzzwords using neuroscience in our marketing for other products to how to attract your attention. And so when you hear color of the year, we're not putting down the paint companies, but be cautious, because trends are very short-lived, and this is not short-lived.
This is game changing. This is listen, we're breaking the mold. There's just no question. We're breaking the mold of what how interior design is perceived. And that's actually, since it looks like we're winding down, let me give you one quote. If we might want to end with this.
Yes.
This is from Professor Harry Malgrave, renowned neuroscientist out of the University of Pennsylvania, Illinois Institute of Technology. And he says, I believe we're on the verge of a revolution in the way we approach design. Moving forward, it will be guided by a more basic understanding of the human organism and its immediate relationship with the built environment. And then he says, this is the epiphany that needs to take place. And so that's where we are. And Linda and I are trying to make that change in our industry to cause that positive effect. And anybody that wants to join us to help us, we're constantly building the spider web. We're reaching out to talk to as many people as we can. And we're a delivery system. So please, to all of you, feel free to contact us. Please go to scienceanddesign.com. And if you like the certification program, sign up on the wait list for the certification program. Also, please join us in High Point. High Point is maturing as a center for arts and design. And so we have a day-long symposium on October 13th in High Point, North Carolina.
We put it on our website, Mike, because this is great to put it out there that people can join if they want. We put all the information out there.
Do.
Yeah,
Will
because people will listen to this podcast later on that are not joining us live, and so I would love to. Great story, Mike and Linda. Yeah, you gave me a little bit when we first met in our video call. You gave us a little bit, and I literally told you, don't tell me too much, because I do always love the surprising element of all this knowledge and expertise. And it worked. I think a lot of people liked it. I saw them writing and writing a lot, actually.
A lot of comments.
A lot of comments, yes.
So that was good.
So thanks a lot, all of you, for being here and listening to the Beyond Interior Design podcast. This is we are on the same mission like you. We want to elevate the profession. Interior design is not about dragging beautiful stuff into a building. It's way more. So we need to give all the creators in the world the tools to take the stage and take their place to create the most beautiful environments, because they're good for our health and happiness. So that's what we need right now in this some roller coaster time. Let's call it that way. That's with all this fast moving technology and all the stuff around us, and we are so yearning for this, to slow it down, for this easy lifestyle and easy life. No distractions. So interior design can help a lot with that. It can heal us. Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you for having us on. Thank you from the Science Design. I'm checking out from Canada. Mike,
thank you from North America.
Yeah,
my pleasure. Yeah.
So, thank you.